There's a pitcher dealing fastballs, curveballs, and changeups, baffling opponents and leading her team to the playoffs. And she's only a junior. With so much success, she says she's left with few goals except for maintaining her current excellence. There were voters packing the Hudson High auditorium deciding major issues over hours at town meeting earlier this month that might just impact the daily lives of area residents. Marijuana, public school funding, and environmental protection were just some of the issues up for debate. And in the offices of the town hall, on the streets of Hudson, and at local events, a small army of advocates and health department employees are assembling to fight a quiet but potent epidemic that has already killed close to a dozen Hudson residents in recent years. Those stories today on Hudson Spotlight. Good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome to HUD-TV. This is our brand new news magazine broadcast, the Hudson Spotlight. I'm Dakota Antelman, and this is a show that will take you in depth each episode into new corners of our community. In that spirit, our first episode today takes you all the way from town hall to the softball field with our three major stories today. We have a lot to get to, so let's get started on the softball field, where one junior pitcher is dominating Central Massachusetts in her best season yet. Softball pitcher Sophia Togneri started her season by watching her first pitch to her first batter of 2018 sail over the outfield fence for a home run. That, she said, was not the start she wanted for her season. Since then, however, Togneri and her team have quickly jumped out to one of the strongest starts in recent program history, marking a new chapter for a team that spent 2017 struggling after the losses of long-term stars on the field and behind the bench. We start with Sophia Togneri.
This year, honestly, has really exceeded all of my expectations in terms of the first eight games of the season. Last year, I struggled a lot. It was just difficult. I don't really know what went wrong, but I knew I wanted to come back. I didn't want to lose to Neshoba. I didn't want to lose to Westboro. I feel a lot of pressure on the mound and get the outs, make good pitches. And I think I just came out and I did all the work over the winter. I went to the gym, I worked with my pitching coach, and with the team behind me, I don't have to focus on strikeouts, but everything just happened to fall in line.
Indeed, Togneri argued that much of her team's success this season can be attributed to its explosive performance at the plate. They're averaging well over 9 runs per game, making theirs the best offense in the Midwatch B League.
At bat, our underclassmen have really stepped it up this year. Say it again, Abby Nezik coming in as an 8th grader, mashing the ball. Who knew Maggie Baker, first game of the season, takes it deep over the fence. I've literally only seen Maddie hit it over the fence, Haley Gaffney. Who knew little tiny girl could hit it that far? And especially the same, Nat comes back, mashes the ball, Maddie, Taylor, slow kind of start, but now she's raking. So I just think energy breeds energy, so when everybody else is hitting, it starts a really good flow with all of us. Keep the train moving is kind of what we say.
As much as her offense has kept her out of tight games, Togneri has frequently been near perfect from the circle for the Hawks. She had posted an ERA of just 1.27 and walked just 6 batters as of May 7th. She had even strung together 30 consecutive scoreless innings spanning 5 games in well over 2 weeks from April 17th to May 2nd. Embedded within that scoreless streak was an 11 strikeout no-hitter against Groton Dunstable, a realization of a major high school career goal of Togneri's.
That was really fun for me to kind of check off. I already did one of my goals for the season and I was only 6 games in. So I felt not a lot of pressure during that game. We were up 12-0, 10-0. I don't really remember, but I just kind of went out there and did my thing, and I didn't have to focus on what if I give up a hit, or what if. I was able to be okay, I'm just gonna do me, and it just worked out that game. I had a lot of swings and misses. We had played some really good defense behind me, so when the team's behind you and they're really supporting you like that, it's really easy to have really good games like that.
Aware of all of her successes, Togneri is quick, however, to share credit with her catcher and even simple fate itself.
Me and my catcher, we're just kind of we're the battery, the pitcher-catcher duo. I know we're always on the same page. So I know what she's looking for. She knows what I'm looking for, most importantly. So I just think the spins have been working, and I feel really confident. Like, it's junior year, it's the biggest year of my career so far. I just want to go out there and do my best, and it's just stars are aligning. It's all been working really well.
Less than a year ago, the Hawks were struggling to a 9-11 finish that locked them out of the playoffs for the first time in years. That difficult season in turn followed an off-season of turnover for a program in which stars like Steph Hamilton and Haley Gaffney graduated, and longtime coach Mary Beth Ryan left Hudson for a job at Holy Cross. Now, however, things are looking different. The team has settled in behind coach and former HHS star Laura Bowen and is eyeing the playoffs with a roster reloaded with younger stars.
I think this year our team chemistry, it's just different. We have some new players. We brought some new personalities onto the team. Maggie Baker, freshman, is absolutely hysterical. She never really lets us get too down on ourselves. We really have an Allie Banks starting catcher this year. She really steps up and makes us focus. So I think just the energy on the bench is different this year. We're more into every game. There's no drama on the bench. So I just think how you react and the relationships you have off the field really show on the field, and I think that's representative with this team. We all like each other. We hang out. And that is reflective of our play during games.
A standout season indeed for the softball team and Sophia Togneri in particular. Now, since we sat down with Sophia, the situation for her team has only continued to improve. They clinched a playoff spot with a win over Neshoba on May 7th and now sit with a 14-3 record. Togneri herself has held her ERA below 2 runs and has roared past the 100K mark to notch 137 strikeouts. Now, beyond making playoffs and securing the best seed possible for her team, Togneri said she has few goals for the remainder of the season. If anything, mere weeks after feeling unsettled as her first batter of the season rounded the bases after her home run, Togneri is feeling confident and jovial. Maybe I'd like to allow a few less home runs, she said. Changing topics now, we go inside the high school to the auditorium where Hudson residents passed articles funding the public schools and restricting recreational marijuana sales, but rejected an article aimed at protecting local wetlands at a busy town meeting May 7th. Let's take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, a quorum having been ascertained, the 2018 annual town meeting for the town of Hudson, the 153rd annual town meeting, will now come to order.
Voters passed public school funding less than a week after school committee members made their plea at a fiery budget meeting at the high school. Students, parents, and teachers alike have been up in arms for weeks at this point over the district's decision to lay off 17 teachers for the next fiscal year. In spite of the frustration, however, district leaders have insisted that the cuts were a necessary step towards economic stability in the future for the district. Voters also passed a restriction on recreational marijuana sales, but not before considerable debate both at the town meeting and before it. The town has been working since the state legalized marijuana in 2016 to prepare zoning bylaws to have in place before commercial sale becomes legal in early July. They held 2 listening sessions earlier this year to gauge public opinion before ultimately opting for a bylaw that restricts recreational sales to a small district near Highland Commons that is already zoned for medical marijuana sales. While allowing limited recreational sales, the bylaw enacted outright bans on both so-called pot cafes and commercial marijuana growth in town. Even the day of the town meeting, many were pushing hard for the bylaw's passage.
It's because it's a source of revenues that doesn't come from your checkbooks 4 times a year. I'm for anything that's legal that raises funds from sources other than the citizens.
The bylaw was not, however, without its opponents. Many in the Board of Selectmen and even in the larger quorum of voters opposed it, on grounds that it either was too restrictive and would be hard to amend, or that it was too lenient and allowed too much marijuana into the town. And though the teacher layoff and marijuana debates had sparked outrage before the meeting, residents spent the longest amount of time at the meeting discussing a proposed wetlands protection bylaw. Drafted as an add-on to existing state regulations, the bylaw enforced a buffer zone around area wetlands. If passed, it would be difficult for landowners to either build permanent structures or maintain through landscaping the areas around area wetlands. Voters objected to specific wording of the bylaw, particularly the inclusion of a $100 fine for violations and perceived leniency given to contractors brought in to bring landowners up to compliance.
They're taking the use of our land away from us. We cannot cut more than one tree without permission. We cannot trim shrubs. It says right in there, unless, extensively. We can maintain our lawns. If it's our lawn currently, then we're not affected. But I think that they're overstepping their authority. We don't need this much control. I don't know if we have a problem in town now with encroachment on the riverfront and the habitat of wildlife. I just see this as a potential for reducing, you talk about increasing property values. What's going to happen to the value of my property when you take over half of it and you say I lose control of it?
As it faced heavy scrutiny at the meeting, however, the bylaw's supporters took to its defense.
Because wetlands are extremely important, the soils and plants in wetlands are kind of like a sponge. They absorb flood waters. They help with flood protection. They also filter pollutants. They absorb chemicals and fertilizers before it gets into the rivers, the ponds, the streams, and the drinking wells. A lot of towns in Massachusetts feel that now with a lot of development pressure and climate change, the current law doesn't provide enough protection.
The bylaw was drafted over months prior to the town meeting, being discussed at Board of Selectmen hearings and at public listening sessions. When it came before voters at town meeting, however, voters rejected it by a slim margin.
Results of the division in the meeting, the vote taken in favor, 109, against 110, therefore the motion is defeated.
So a quick whip around through what was an eventful town meeting there. Touching on 3 topics there, voters also passed 28 other articles relating to the town's governance. For more on those articles, check out the town meeting warrant, which is still available at townofhudson.org. That brings us now to our big story today. For years now, we at HUD-TV have been following the impact of the raging heroin epidemic in this community. 2 summers ago, we brought you into living rooms and meeting halls for a look at a variety of individuals fighting the crisis with a variety of approaches. We take you back to some of those same meeting halls today, but focus on just one department currently working hard to snuff out addiction in Hudson. Let's take a look. On the street, the Hudson police come face-to-face with drug addiction on a regular basis. In just the last 12 months, they've helped break up a drug ring and responded to dozens of individual overdoses. Like countless others, this department is wrestling daily with the balance of crime and punishment and treatment of a recognized mental health disorder. But as the epidemic continues to hit Hudson, another group is working in offices and at public events to tackle another side of drug addiction. Aware of the scale of the problem, public health leaders like Hudson's Kelli, Calo are launching new programs and building on old ones to prevent drug addictions before they start and treat those who do get addicted. We start with Kelli Calo herself.
Across all communities, it's an epidemic. People are being touched left and right. Maybe not your family, but maybe a friend's family member or whoever. If you had about 100 people in a room, I'd guarantee like 25% of them have been touched by substance abuse or some form or another.
In response to that, the town recently joined a regional program aimed at distributing and training residents in the use of Narcan. Additionally, even before this program, the town had already stocked many of its municipal departments with Narcan. Now, the police, fire department, and public schools all stock it. Now, with this new program, the department has brought in 100 Narcan kits with a total of 200 doses of the drugs to distribute to local businesses and individuals for free. But even as Narcan proliferates, health officials are facing an uphill battle against stigma. That's not stigma against heroin, though, but indeed, Narcan itself. Many say the drug enables addicts to overdose repeatedly. Calo, however, sees things differently.
The way we like to describe it is Narcan is essentially a fire extinguisher that's going to put out the fire. The fire is going to stop, but then you're going to need help after the fire. So people really need to be there to support these individuals in the community to be able to save them and then get them the help they need afterwards.
While not geared towards the growing community of overdose victims in town specifically, the health department's most recent substance abuse-related event was still a proactive one, approaching the problem not from an emergency angle, but from a preventative one. Earlier this month, the department partnered with local advocates to screen the short film If Only for Hudson High School students and their families. If Only, which portrays high school students struggling with substance abuse, has been widely used by activists as a warning in recent years.
For that event was, so for If Only, we wanted to kind of teach the kids that this is what's out there nowadays, and to let them know that there is support systems in place and that this can happen to them, this can happen to their friends, it can happen to a straight-A student, it can happen to anybody. So to really kind of put that seed in their back of their minds that this is real. And then for the parents is to create a conversation between the students and the parents to be able to have an open dialogue about substance abuse, and to be able to have that conversation at home and be open and honest, and for the parents to say, I support you, I'm here, if you ever need anything. So hopefully we catch them before they ever get into that, but if they haven't, maybe they'll be able to open up.
Finally, the department has also responded to survey data recently collected and launched a program aimed at connecting at-risk teens with caring and trained adults to discuss their problems.
Students said that they didn't really have an adult that they could go to with these problems. So we created a Caring Adults Network that is essentially adults and teaching them how to create positive youth development in children, and to be able to be there and say, listen, I know you're having a tough time. It's hard to be a kid these days. What can I do to help?
Crucial in all of this has been the work model led by the town's Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. A group of individuals from a variety of town agencies, the coalition fosters collaboration between the health department, individual activists, the school district, and the police department, among other groups. In Hudson, in fact, many of those touched most closely by substance abuse disorders have turned their grief into activism and worked closely with Calo and her agency on many of these projects.
It's Kathy Leonard. She lost her son. He went to Hudson High School. We work really, really closely with them to be able to get out into the community and to share their stories. So Kathy was instrumental in getting the If Only event to the Hudson High School. We worked together to be able to get Jim Wahlberg out, to get that on. Grades 8, 9, and 10 saw that, and then we did a parent show at the end. And she shared her story, which was so touching because she had pictures of her son walking through the high school.
Nationwide, drug overdoses are killing tens of thousands of people per year, earning attention from federal and state governments as well as the mass media. Locally, they're having much of the same effect. 6 Hudson residents fatally overdosed in 2015, 2 more died in 2016, and at least 1 died last year, although that number may rise once the state finalizes its data. For Kelli Calo, challenging that means intervening early and helping those already hooked into the cycle of substance use break free. As she looked towards the future, though, she knows her agency's ability to continue fighting this epidemic may simply come down to its ability to keep funding itself and its events.
The current grant that we have is renewable. We just got the grant again for about 2 more years, and after those 2 years, it's renewable for about another 2 years. Since this is a really big public health issue right now, there is funding, fortunately, and I think that it's on the minds of every funding agency that they want to address substance abuse. So right now, we're not having too much of a problem with funding, but I'm afraid that once we start to see results, the funding will go down.
A very difficult story there, but a pressing one in Hudson indeed. We would like to note, if you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction to alcohol or drugs, there are resources available. Visit the Metro West Hope website at mwhope.org for links and contact information for many of those resources. And with that, we wrap up this first episode of Hudson Spotlight. Be sure to check out our brand new HUD-TV YouTube page for this and other productions. And for all of us at HUD-TV, and until next time, I'm Dakota Antelman. Have a great day, Hudson.